Hey, what's going on, man? Coach Tyler here from Black Diamond Softball and Fitness. We got a brand new episode of the Foul Pole Show. And of course, it's brought to you by my friends over at the Carolina Patriot Collegiate League. If you guys haven't heard, there is a brand new summer softball league coming to the Fayetteville, North Carolina area. Going to be happening during the months of June and July. Whether you're an incoming freshman looking to kind of get your feet wet and see what the action's all about, or you're a player in the transfer portal looking for a new home, this is the place for you. We got players that are going to be just trying to stay sharp, honing their skills coming into their juniors and senior years. And fans, this is for you to get out there and kind of see what the college game is all about. A lot of girls from all over. We're going to have 6 teams playing a bunch of games. If you want to register as a player, go over there to cpatriotcl.com. All the details are there for you. And as a fan, there's a ton of details for you and all the information that you'll need to make sure you're able to take in some of those games. Today's episode is brought to you by the Nexus Mount. Our turnkey kits provide a secure and hassle-free way to attach multiple devices to any fence, net, or tripod. Crafted from lightweight aluminum with a powder-coated finish, our mounts are built to last. But that's not all. Our innovative design features a removable shade cover to protect our devices from direct sunlight during outdoor streaming events, minimizing the risk of overheating. Don't settle for anything less than perfection. Unleash the full potential of your streaming experience with the Nexus Mount. Visit us today at thenexusmount.com and elevate your game. All right, man. Today is Friday, March 22nd, and we're going to get into a little bit of conference realignment. Now, I know it's not as popular to talk about conference realignment when we're talking about softball, but the ACC is one of those Power 5 conferences. And of course, we know that the world revolves around football, and it's the NFL most of the time, but college football is just as popular as the NFL in most areas. Well, the ACC has a little bit of problem on their hands when it comes to Clemson and Florida State. Clemson and Florida State have at least let it be known that they're not happy with how the ACC is handling things, and they want to get out of sort of their contract. Well, back in 2013 and 2016, all the teams in the ACC voluntarily signed the agreement to stay within and worked out all the monetary parameters that go with being in a Power 5 conference. With that, they were also informed that it is a $140 million buyout for you to get out of the conference. Well, the thing is, just because you get out of the ACC, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go to the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, because they don't look at just numbers and your wins and your losses and your graduation rate and that kind of stuff. The conferences are looking at what are you bringing to our conference that we don't have. So let's look at Florida State in particular first. Of course, Florida State is in the state of Florida. There are a few teams that are in big-time conferences in the state of Florida. And if we look at just Florida alone, it's their big rivalry, Florida State. What does Florida State bring that Florida doesn't? Well, they already have a media market down there that is established for the SEC because how close the power teams are. You look at a Florida that's there. Georgia's not too far away. You've got South Carolina not too far away. You've got Alabama, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. You got all these teams that are already in that same market. So you're not bringing new eyes to the conference, right? And that's the big thing is where are our viewers from and where are your viewers from? And of course, there's a big time fan contingency in the state of Florida for Florida State. Now, don't get me wrong. Florida State is a great sports, university as well. Whether it's baseball, basketball, football, softball, they do well. It's a Power 5 conference, and they're usually at the top of the conference when it's all said and done. You can probably go back and look over the last 10 years in every sport. They're either competing for a conference championship or right there on the cusp of it. So you would think, why not have, these commissioners from the conferences be like, let's just get all the best teams to play together because parity, it brings in a lot of viewership, conference games and this and that. And just a lot goes in that. But it's not that simple for those guys. We take a look at a team like Clemson in South Carolina. Of course, there's an SEC team in South Carolina Gamecocks. So again, the media market. People that watch South Carolina are diehard South Carolina fans. People that watch Clemson are diehard Clemson fans. And they kind of cross over. They cross deck just a little bit. but the Southeastern Conference isn't gaining a new market. But if you look at other teams that are in the ACC, you look at a team like a Virginia Tech, has a ton of potential to join a conference like the Big 12 or like the SEC. There's not an SEC team in the state of Virginia. So that's a market that they're looking at. Everybody wants to talk about, well, how did Rutgers, end up in a conference? Well, look at the New York market. You look at the eyes that just are around that New York market. And it doesn't matter how good Rutgers is. Rutgers hasn't competed for anything in a national level sport in forever. Yeah, they've made it to when Greg Schiano was there playing football, or he was the head coach of football, his first tenure. They had a couple of decent bowl games, but they never competed. But the conference didn't look at it like we don't need you to compete. We just need that market. We just need that media outlet that is New York, right? And so that's what you're looking at. So if we backtrack a little bit and we talk about Clemson and we talk about Florida State, what does Clemson and or Florida State bring to a different conference? Right now, I mean, they are the heads of the ACC. It doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. Outside of basketball, where you have Duke and Carolina in the ACC, you look at all the other sports. Clemson competes, whether it's baseball, softball, basketball, whatever. Florida State, they compete, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, softball. So eventually something's going to shake out. Where is Clemson and Florida State going to go? I don't know. I mean, of course, it's in the courts now, and we know the courts move slow. But by the time something is going to shake free and they're going to get a decision on how much each team would owe, I mean, it's in black and white. They signed and they agreed to the $140 million conference buyout. Will they have to pay that much? Who knows? It'll probably come down. They'll probably settle on some type of agreement where it's $100 million and this and that. On the other side of that, when it's time for them, if they do leave the ACC or the ACC just dissolves, what conference is going to pick those two teams up? Will they go to the same conference? Will they split? Can you see, a Florida State team in the SEC? Can you see a Clemson team in the SEC or a Big 12 or a Big 10? I mean, look at what's happened to the Pac-12. I mean, that conference pretty much dissolved. Now you've got Olympic sports that are having to travel all the way across the country. You look at baseball, you look at softball, you look at basketball. I know the world, again, it revolves around football and there's that money and stuff, and it's just one game a week and this and that. But when the conferences were established because it just made sense. I mean, a lot of these games were bus ride games. Well, over the last 20 years with this conference realignment and, money getting injected from boosters or alums or whatever, a lot of these schools are growing and they wanted to get a taste of that money, this network money. You look at the Longhorn Network, or you look at the SEC channel or the ACC network or whatever. These teams wanted to get involved in that because that money goes into the pockets of the university. And money rules everything in college sports. I mean, look at how long the NCAA has tried to control NIL and the likeness of players. How many of y'all remember playing that video game NCAA football? And I remember way back when it was even involving basketball, Ed O'Bannon from UCLA was like, whoa, wait a minute. If I'm not making any scratch off of this, then y'all not using my likeness. I mean, that's way back. Good Lord, man. Early 2000s, maybe, when Ed O'Bannon was at UCLA playing basketball. And then how long ago have we had a game? I mean, it's been 2 decades probably since we had a football game and a basketball game for NCAA. So you look at what the NCAA does. They put their hands in things they shouldn't, and then they don't control things that they should. And I don't know why the NCAA is even a thing anymore. In my heart, you try to think, well, maybe they have the best interest. But no, their interest is making money. At the end of the day, they're all about making money. They're making money off of the college athletes' back. And then you have us as parents and coaches and scouts and mentors or whatever that kind of have to figure out a way to tell these kids, hey, I know you want to go play D1 or D2, but man, the better option for you is not, going and throwing out $150,000 on something that it's not a guarantee. Why not go throw like $30 or $40 or $50,000 at something versus $150? So, it's a fun topic to talk about. But I mean, no one knows the answer of what's going to happen. And the only reason we talk about it is because you got two powerhouse universities that have at least, said something about leaving the ACC. What does the ACC look like if they leave? What does it do to those potential student athletes that, in the next year or so have either committed or signed? And, maybe they move conferences. So now one team goes to the Big 12 and all their games are so far away. Does somebody want to do that? What does it do to coaches? It's just, there's a lot that goes into it. So, we're thinking about, where to land as a college player, wanting to go to school or whatever. You kind of want to know what conference you're going to be playing in. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I guess that's kind of not as high on the pecking order as far as choices. I mean, of course, we talk to the athletes all the time, make sure it's a good fit for you. This kind of goes in there somewhere. Is it number 7, 8, 9, or 10 on your list of concerns when it comes to a school? It probably is. It's probably not priority number one of what conference is the school in. Of course, kids are looking at, academic programs, looking at location, looking at cost, looking at roster size, looking at team needs, looking at that kind of stuff. But it does affect players. And then, of course, you have the butterfly effect. When one girl decides to commit and go to this one place, that takes away a potential spot for someone that may have been looking at it too. So you just don't know. There are no right answers when it comes to this kind of stuff. So, well, I hope that sort of shines a little bit of light on you as far as, conferences and kind of what goes on, not necessarily behind the scenes, but what can affect you, somewhere down the road. We might have a 8th grader, 9th grader, or 10th grader right now that could be looking at Clemson and or could be looking at a Florida State to go play softball at. And, this stuff, what if they're not in a conference? What if things, are changing and it's just weird for everybody? So there is something sort of on the back burner for everyone when this affects more than just those two universities and those two conferences, whichever, the ACC and whatever conference that these teams decide to go to. So just putting that out there. Fun Friday episode, dropping a little bit of knowledge for you. If you know somebody likes this type of stuff, man, please share it. And as always, if you share it with a friend, be sure you tell them you love them.